This presentation is going to review the topic of descriptive statistics and data visualization. And just to introduce this topic a little bit, descriptive statistics are one of the major branches of statistics, along with inferential statistics being the other branch. And the goal is here to describe the characteristics of a sample, or if you have the data, the entire population. Uh, Inferential statistics provides us with tools to be able to make the leap from sample to population. But here we're looking at descriptive statistics and some of the useful tools that exist to facilitate good description. And data visualizations represent one of those kind of family of tools, including graphs, plots, charts, tables, and other kind of helpful tools or representations. It's important to note that whenever we're going to do some kind of statistical analysis, it should almost always begin with basic description. It helps us become familiar with the data, identify any challenges presented by that data, such as non-normality or missing data, and help us devise the most appropriate strategies for more advanced types of analysis. And the way we approach descriptive statistics is going to depend on the kind of data that we are dealing with. And here we get into levels of measurement. There are basically two types of data that you would find in a spreadsheet. One type is what we call categorical, usually involving text, and the other is continuous, usually involving numbers. And then within those broad categories are subsets. Within categorical, we have some data that are ranked, some that are not. So the unranked categorical data we call nominal, and the ranked ordinal. Within continuous, the distinction is sometimes less important, but essentially ratio is whenever the zero value is a meaningful idea, such as zero on the absolute zero on the Kelvin temperature scale versus zero on the Fahrenheit scale, which actually is more of a relative number, not an absence of a quantity. So interval is when zero does not have a real value. So whenever you see negative values, that's an indication of interval level data. And if we have categorical data, we almost always need to create frequency tables as a way to summarize those data. And what that'll show us is the number or frequency falling into each category. So we'll look at some examples in a moment. And in addition to the number, of course, we want to know percent or proportion just by looking at that number over the total number in the sample. And sometimes we'll look at a special type called the crosstab, which looks at two variables at once and how they are related to each other. Those can be visualized as well using categories are usually represented either by pie charts, and those get a little bit hard to make sense of if there are too many pie slices. So personally, I would say four or fewer categories is more ideal to pie charts. Beyond that, it starts looking sort of like a kaleidoscope, but that's a personal preference. Bar charts can accommodate more categories, and when there are several categories, bar charts begin to look a little bit like another visualization that's more appropriate to continuous data called the histogram. And box plots are especially useful when you're looking at ordinal data. They'll show the interquartile range and the median. And these are really useful for identifying outliers, as we'll see. With continuous data, the way we present our descriptive analysis is usually with summary statistics. So that includes measures of central tendency or standard mean, median, mode, and measures of dispersion or variability, as we previously mentioned. Standard deviation IQR, which is the interquartile range, and the range, just the lowest to the highest value. always good to know those things, especially when you're trying to identify outliers and that sort of thing. So again, box plots, they can work here as well, so kind of a multi-purpose visualization. But histograms are kind of the standard when you're looking at continuous data. They're especially useful for looking at normality. You're looking for that bell-shaped curve. And if that doesn't exist, sometimes we have to introduce special steps before we can take more advanced steps in analyzing that data. Density plots are also useful. They're kind of like a smooth version of a histogram. Useful, especially when you have small samples sometimes. What to look for? Well, when we're describing data, in addition to just basic percentiles or measures of central tendency, when we're looking at multiple variables especially, we want to look at patterns, how they're correlated, look at trends if we're looking at something, if we have longitudinal data. So the typical case, that's what we get from those measures of central tendency and variability. And so with categories, we're looking at, usually our first question is what's the most common category. Sometimes you want to know what's the least common or the most unusual, especially if it kind of defies your expectations going into the data analysis. And then with continuous, it's what is the average case, so the mean or the median usually supplies that. How do the other cases vary around that? There's your standard deviation or your IQR. And then if we're assessing normality, we can look at these things called skewness and kurtosis. Skewness is when that bell-shaped curve kind of leans in one direction or the other. And kurtosis is when that bell-shaped curve is either extremely flat or very peaked. All right. So those are something we actually can represent with a statistic on a summary statistics table. Usually a visual inspection of the histogram gets us pretty far with the determining normality. So again, why do we do this? We're painting a picture, a profile that emphasizes any kind of characteristics we're interested in studying. So really quite versatile. And a lot of analysis is, of course, just going to stay at this level. Many people don't really possess the skills to go beyond that. And you can get pretty far in life just creating graphs and charts and tables and frequency tables. But the advanced statistics gets more into prediction. Trying to understand why questions means we have to look at regression models and other types of techniques. And before you can do those techniques, you really have to build a good foundation of descriptive statistics. So we're going to look at this as a step throughout our journey together into more advanced techniques, because we always need to clean and screen data. So advanced methods make assumptions like normality and levels of measurement, also assumptions about variance and independence of cases, observations. So descriptive analysis allows us to determine, at least to an extent, if those assumptions are met. And so this is essential. Weed out outliers that might be influencing the mean greatly, those kinds of things. So it's an essential first step before more advanced measures can be taken. So yeah, we can assess if data are missing. So we might do a quick frequency table and see a large percentage of missing cases. Then we can determine if that's of concern or not. Sometimes, like if you study the General Social Survey, they intentionally don't ask certain questions to a large percentage of people. So it's not usually a cause for alarm. It's just kind of expected. But if you do have a survey where all the questions were asked of everyone, and you have a question with very few responses, that does get flagged. There's something wrong with that question. So just basic analysis will help us understand those kinds of issues. And normality, as we've been talking about, can be determined here as well. And we'll look at some some ways we might treat non-normality, such as by transforming data. We'll not get into that here, but essentially that just involves taking some values and performing some kind of mathematical operation that will change the shape of the distribution, such as most commonly probably the log transformation, and then some others like the exponential or square root. We'll explore those later. And finally, as we mentioned, you can identify outliers, extreme cases, and choose the most appropriate type of analysis. So in summary, descriptives are themselves important. They're as a part of any analysis, just to help you, the analyst, understand the data more carefully, but also anyone who reads your reports, the kind of work that you're putting out as a data analyst. You always want to lead with some descriptives so your reader becomes familiar with the data. You're painting a picture for them, you're trying to tell a story. And I'm often surprised actually how some of the most advanced multivariate techniques may sometimes not add much to that story. So that can be humbling at times, but you need to do those analyses in order to know that. Um, Categorical data, of course, we represent with tables and bar charts. So it takes a little practice getting used to, just kind of knowing what to go to with the type of data you have. If you see a series of numbers, well, we're looking at summary statistics, central tendency, and dispersion, normality assessments, looking at histograms, and those kinds of things. All right, so that's just a basic introduction to descriptive statistics, an important foundation to any kind of analysis. Thank you.